And here's the thing, and we saw an uptick in this during the pandemic. I'll be honest with you. Okay? It was there, but I think the pandemic, and the pandemic had a variety of different problems, obviously. But we saw this happen. Okay? Where we, and I say again, we broadly here, shifted to this focus of best we can. Okay, where we said, listen, it's a worldwide pandemic. None of us have ever done this before. It's brand new. It's brand new. And it was. And we were trying to figure some things out, and some things were touch and go for a little while. How long will it be this way? When will it last? I think back the other day, I was telling some colleagues the other day, we literally left on a Friday from school, and we just didn't go back. The weirdest thing that's ever happened to me. Normally, Memorial Day is the start of summer, and I've got to find a way to entertain a 4-year-old until the next school year. By the time we got to Memorial Day that year, I was already 2 months of entertaining, I was out of ideas. I had nothing else. You can only go to the creek behind the house so many times. So, I mean, it was strange. But at the same time, sometimes I think we leaned on that whole best we can crutch a little bit. During that time period, and again, this was something that I just kind of earmarked and saved at one point in time. This was somebody that wrote in some sort of blog, different person that I mentioned before. Now, this person at one point in time was a member of the Lord's church. Now they're somewhere else. They go to a different denomination because, again, the gospel's for sale. And we wanted to find it elsewhere. And in their little blog post thing, this is what they wrote. There is something, I don't know if they use the word special, but that just feels good about, and I kid you not, taking a bite of a Cheez-It and a sip of Gatorade to commemorate our Lord's death. And I know God honors that because we're doing the best we can with what we have. Now, some of you may roll your eyes. You think that is insane. Well, we know that we can read in Mark 14 about the things we're supposed to use for the Lord's Supper to commemorate our Savior's death, and it's certainly the bread and the fruit of the vine. The bread is not of the cheese variety. It's not. And I don't know of any Gatorade that is a fruit of the vine. I haven't found one yet. But we said, in this instance, and again, doing the best we can. So God honors it, and I know that. She said that. I know God honors that because we're doing the best we can with what we have. But we're not. A, we're not. We're not doing the best we can. B, we have other means in which we live here within this country. In all cases, there was ways. Even in a lockdown scenario, they would deliver your groceries to your house. There was ways to get other things. I know we started it during that period. We hadn't quit yet. So there was other ways and means to do those things, first and foremost. But second, God doesn't honor our best when it's contrary to what he commands of us. He doesn't. He doesn't honor that. I can't ever say, well, I did my best, and I know that God honored that because it was my best. Well, is it what God commanded of me? Should be the question. If the answer is no, then, well, God doesn't honor my best. And you don't have to take my word for it. There's examples of this. Look at Genesis 4, for example. You have Cain and Abel. And they're both going to give a sacrifice. And Cain is, of course, he's tilling the ground. He's got these vegetables. I don't know exactly what Cain's sacrifice looked like, but I bet it was a pretty decent one in terms of fruits and vegetables and other things that he produced. It probably looked pretty good. It was probably an impressive looking sacrifice of fruits and vegetables. The problem was, that's not the sacrifice that God commanded them to give. So he can't say, well, God, I did the best I can. I gave you the best of my fruits and vegetables there. Well, you may have, but guess what? It's not what I asked for. And I don't get to say, Cain, you're right, and I'm sorry. God's not saying that. You're right, and I'm sorry. You did your best, and I should have appreciated your best. Because again, your best is not what I asked. And we see God did exactly that. No, Cain. And of course, Cain's mad because Abel's got the good sacrifice. Well, Abel didn't go above and beyond. Abel just did what he was told. He did exactly what he was told. I can't claim, and here's the other thing. How can I claim, let's put it that way, how can I claim to love God and then worship him in a way other than he demands me to? Because here's the thing that we forget, again, culturally we forget this, because again, culturally we like to talk about the loving God and the merciful God, and he is certainly both of those things, and I'm thankful for it. But he's a demanding God. He certainly is. He demands things. He commands things and he demands things. Always has. Genesis 4. And that's way back. He was demanding then. He's demanding now. And how can we say, I love God, and then we worship in a way in which he is against the way he demands? You look in John 14:15. Christ, of course, says, if you love me, do what? Keep my commandments. In Luke 6:46, why do you call me Lord, Lord, and do not the things which I say? How can we say it? Well, no, I love God. I'm a Christian, and we use that term broadly. But then I worship him in a way that is against what he demands of me. And here's the thing, does that make sense in any other relationship in life? It does not. And I've used this example before, and I'll continue to use it forever because it just makes sense. If I am constantly displeasing to my wife, me and her are not okay. We're not. We're not okay. Why? Because I'm displeasing to her. And if she's constantly displeasing to me, her and I are not okay. We're not just like, well, we love each other, so we get by. No, that doesn't make sense. Everyone knows that. If my son is constantly displeasing to me, him and I aren't okay. I love him. I do. I love my wife. But we're not okay just because of that. Because of the relationship that we have between father and son. Because of the relationship we have between husband and wife. So why then? Why could I be constantly displeasing to God and he and I we're just okay. We're okay. Because he loves me. And he's merciful. And you know what? I'm doing the best I can. And he knows that. But I'm not doing the best I can. Because if I was doing the best I can, I would be doing what God required. Because again, he's required the same thing forever. It's not like he changed this. We've got the rubric. We know what we're going to be judged by. He didn't mix it up and say, oh, by the way, I'm going to change things now. We've had the New Testament for quite some time. It's been the same. It has remained the same. We've got to make sure that we worship him in a way that he requires of us. Again, this whole best I can thing popped up, I think, a bit more during the pandemic. And we see other things that were pandemic driven, and some great things. We have, in this congregation here, we have live stream. And it's a fantastic thing. It is, it's wonderful. My wife is home right now with our newborn, and she's watching this on live stream. She's been able to watch every Sunday that she's been at home with our newborn child. It's great. And there was a time period in which you couldn't do that. If you're home with your newborn, somebody maybe will bring you the Lord's Supper and you can take it, but you can't be at least in spirit, quote unquote, to use that word loosely, with the members there. The problem, however, is I think we have allowed things like live stream to let us fall into the best we can category sometimes, culturally. Again, this is a new thing, fairly new. So culturally, we've allowed this, well, I'm doing the best. It was a long day at work. And I've got the kids, and they've got to get fed and ready. And there's so many things I do. So we're probably just going to stay home tonight, and we're probably just going to watch it on live stream. And it'll be fine because I'm doing the best I can. But is that the best we can? Truthfully. Because I can rationalize it however I want to. And again, I assure you I'm not intending on stepping on any toes or upsetting anyone, but the fact of the matter is we need to be aware of the type of worship that we're putting forth. Because if the pandemic time period did teach us anything, worshiping at home is simply not the same. It's not the same. It's not. If you were like me, you were very when we could come back and gather together, just because it's not the same. It was certainly better than nothing. Did I appreciate it? When we're in a time of very much uncertainty. What is this like? We've never done this before. It's brand new, and we're trying to be smart, and we're trying to make good decisions, and our elders are trying to make good decisions on behalf of every member here, of the entire flock that they oversee. And so we made the decisions that we made in that moment. But do we allow those now to say, well, it's just, I'm going to do the best I can, and I'll just lean on it. I go on vacation. And once upon a time, if I were to go on vacation, I would go find a place to worship. But now, I just like watch the live stream in the hotel that's back home. Or, again, it's a Wednesday night, and I'm busy, and I got things to do, and so I'll just watch the live stream.